Hello everyone, my name is Maria Trinidad, and for this second project, I decided to focus on a technique, and the technique I wanted to work on is splatter painting. Okay, let's get started. Okay, what is splatter painting? Splatter painting is a set of techniques for using brushes and other implements to flick, throw, or drip paint onto a painting surface, instead of painting with brushes to create original abstract art. So splatter painting is also known as drip painting or action painting. Either, yeah, I'm okay with either or. But for throughout the presentation, when I say splatter painting, the technique took off when the abstract expressionist art movement began in the 1940s. Splatter painting celebrates spontaneity, improvisation, and a highly physical approach to making art. And for this sort of technique, there's really no rules in how to do it, but let's get what is like the basic supplies you need. Okay, so you can use any kind of paint. So acrylic, which is the most common, and because there's so many colors, watercolor and gouache. They give the painting a softer look. And also, you can use latex house paint. It's cheap and it gives the overall painting a stringy texture. You could use different sizes and types of brushes. You can use, I have listed few examples of two brushes. They work well and are the brush of choice for many splatter artists. Sticks, spoons, I guess anything really to flick paint onto a surface. Next is any painting surface would do. I the most common uses you see splatter painting is canvases, but you could also do in paper. Just be aware that it will saturate easily. So the first artist I want to discuss is Jackson Pollock. He is an influential American painter and a major figure in the abstract expressionist movement. So the first painting you see here is Full Fathom 5. This painting is done in 1947. It is one of the earliest masterpieces of Pollock's drip technique. The title is suggested by Pollock's neighbor, quotes from The Tempest by William Shakespeare, and here's for the quote that they got the title from. Full Fathom 5, thy father lies, of his bones are coral made, those are pearls that were his eyes. So Pollock would tested methods of paint application which promote continuous of lines rather than the broken lines. The character of the line was determined by certain physical and material variables. The viscosity of the paint, controlled by thinning and dilution, the angle and speed of the pouring, and the dynamics of Pollock's bodily gestures, his sweep and rhythm. So throughout the whole piece, you can see like many continuous lines of different colors, and they don't seem to be they all are unified, and they're not like you don't see any sections that are broken off. The next piece is Galaxy. It's done in 1947. This work was exhibited on the 1947 annual exhibition of the American Abstract Artists Group. Pollock freely admitted total retrenchment from traditional methods of oil painting. And on this piece, you can still see the underlayer, and on top you see he would use gold paint on top. And out of the works I've seen so far of his, this was one of my favorite just because I like the touch of the gold paint. Even though the gold paint is on top, sometimes you can't see the underlayer, what other colors you have used. So it makes you look around the piece to see what colors do you see there. Okay, and a third painting of his is Silver Over Black, White, yellow, and red. This work is done in 1948. The surface consists of poured lines and small drops of paint on commercially dyed dark red fabric. The sequence of colors is as follows: thin gray and white lines, a row of bold black curves, an overall intertwining of white, and finally delicate pourings and touches of yellow, silver, scarlet, and Indian red. Elements that soak through appear there as if white were under black, but appear on the front with the white on top, showing that Pollock filled in parts of the white lines, so the overall aesthetic balance of lights and darks would, as he say, as he liked to say, work. Yeah, so given of the name of the title, I was trying to see what colors overlap each other in what order, but for this piece it just seemed like a big mess. But it's an interesting idea of adding layers of colors onto colors. Okay, the next artist, Shozo Shimamoto. Hopefully I'm saying that right, sorry. He is best known for filling glass and plastic bottles with paint and throwing them against canvases, resulting in both performances and paintings. He started his career at bottle crashes in the 50s and 60s. Then in the 70s and 80s, he did other things, but in the 90s, he came back to this technique. He, along with another artist, founded Gutai, I believe I'm saying that right, the radical Japanese artist group that was one of the first international recognized artist collectives. So this first piece you see is Performance in China 12. When he went to his trip in China, I believe there's many other works he have done there. And for this one, you can see the use of cool tone colors. You'll see blues. Well, the majority is blue. A few of yellows, and then with the yellow paint mixing with the blue paint, you see bits of green. And also, if you look at the right side, you see bits of purples there in the mix also. This piece is um, asymmetrical, sorry. So like I mentioned before, the left side you see where the left side the bottles were collided, so you can see the whole amount of paint gather in one spot, while the right side you see specks of the paints from the bottles exploding of color, so it's like less paint on the right side. And I really am fond of this vibrant blue color, like overtaking the whole painting. The next of his works is Bottle Crash, 1987. For this particular work, you can see the underlayers, and from those underlayers, you see mostly like purples. But you could also see on top of that purple layer, it's warm colors like pinks, hints of oranges, yellows, and on top of those specks of color, warm colors, you'll see this blue paint on top, this vibrant blue paint, in which I see is the blue paint is contrasting with the other colors. And my eyes are first drawn to this blue paint just because of how vibrant it is. And I could see from there's a lighter color of blue on top of that blue, and those parts remain me like vein-like patterns. Uh, Shimamoto considered these works as records of his actions and evidence of what happens when life blurs into art. So overall, these bottle crashes, it seemed like there was really no, I guess, sort of plan how to make the piece. I guess it's just how he's feeling at the moment, what his emotions were, and that translated into the painting. The next one is Performance in China 4. In this piece, Shimamoto used mostly primary colors. So you see blue, yellow, and red at the bottom half of the painting. And heading towards the top half, you see all those three colors mixed in together. And you see green, like a muddy green, and hints of purple. So you can tell in this piece, I interpreted it as he didn't had a plan. He just threw those primary colors at whatever it landed at the canvas, and from there he allows the paints to overlap with each other. Okay, the final artist is Sam Francis. He is an American artist known for his colorful, abstract paintings. He practiced elements from abstract expressionism, color field painting, impressionism, and Eastern philosophy to create unique style of painterly abstraction. He is influenced by Jackson Pollock. Most of his works that I know of or that I really am familiar with is done by watercolors. He would add drops of water onto paper and then add watercolor, letting the paint react with the water. So in a sense, it's mostly like he free flow it. He really didn't have no plan. He let the paint do its own thing. So most of the works that I have found aren't titled. So for this one is done in 1974. And while I was looking at this piece, you see in the middle, it's like a big cloud, like a nebula cloud kind of ish, and it's mostly purples and blues. And you see how he allows certain parts to have, I guess, different amounts of water, because, excuse me, the top half, it's mostly really opaque of color, while the bottom half of that cloud, it's really diluted by the water. And surrounding around the cloud and overlapping with the cloud, you see a splatter of paint. So you also see like yellows, purples, and blues. Okay, next slide. And another work is done in 1989. For this piece, it's a bit different than the last one. In this piece, you see this continuous green line that goes throughout the whole piece. And then after that, he would use, I don't know what order he did. I believe he did the paint pouring first, which you see the red, the blue, and I believe hence like a dark blue throughout the piece, kind of similar to Jackson Pollock's works. It's like a continuous line. And then afterwards, he would splatter the paint. So it seemed like he would use different methods in his works. And the last work of his is from 1973, and this is my favorite works of his. Um, for this piece, I believe the artist have sort of planned what he wanted to do, because I believe he would tape certain parts of the canvas. I believe mostly where you see the splatter paint is at. While he taped that, he would have added water or surrounding around those taped parts of the canvas. Um, I believe once the water is somewhat dried, I'm not really sure how the effects came out, because then once he add paint onto the water, you see how it would spread. Like some spots are really opaque, and then you see like a transparent part of the paint being spread out. And then once that part of the paint is dried, he would then he would then remove the tape and then splatter the whole piece. That's what I'm trying to figure it out what he's done to this piece. Um, We're going to look into my artworks. I have done 3 for this project, and if you want, you could pause for a moment to look at them. Look at them here or have a closer look at the discussion board. Okay, let's go to the first piece. This one, I've used acrylic paint, and I was trying to do the similar technique as San Francis did by adding water throughout the using watercolor paper. And I also try to do a similar method that Pollock did is by pouring the paint. So I have this, I would first use acrylic ink that add drops to it onto the water and have that do its own thing, have it spread on its own. And then afterwards, I would then pour the paint from the tube. And I try my best to do continuous lines on certain colors. And for this piece, I have no particularly plan to. I just pick colors that I just pick the first colors I see. I really have no plan to it, so I don't know, just free expression. Just express myself, I guess. Okay, the next word. This one, I was trying to incorporate the splatter paint as a background and have a character, have the background represent what the character is. And for this case, I use softer colors, mostly pastels colors. And for the background, I did only have the upper part to show kind of like a bubble thought of the character in a way, but these colors are what represent what personality the character has. And yeah, I added water at the very top so you can see the mixes of colors with the water as it dries. Okay, and my third piece, this one is I use acrylic ink, acrylic paint, and gouache. Okay, the colors I used were the leftovers from the previous painting with the character, so I just want to reuse the paint again. And what's in gouache is usually the red paint you see, and then bits of the green. I I just wanted to like experiment, do like a process to see what 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 kind of like methods I should use. Like I usually use like I flick the paintbrush to have those tiny specks, and then with the and also with the red from the gouache paint, I would flick the paintbrush, but not like using as the what most artists use with the toothbrush to have like these tiny specks of paint. And at times I would just drop the paintbrush onto the paper to see what kind of patterns it would make. Overall, for this project, it seemed mostly just like a process base for me, trying to figure out what method I should apply the paint with and what paint I should use. I've always liked this method because sometimes I would use it just to add in the background. And that's it for my presentation of splatter paint. Thank you so much for listening.